Hello, hello. Welcome back to the Story Darlings podcast. I'm Sandra.
And I'm Tara.
And Tara, what are we talking about today?
So we are talking about the second book in the Colleen Hoover It Starts With Us, Ends With Us duology.
Duology.
And this one is It Starts With Us, even though it feels like that should have been the first one, that title.
Tara's going to argue this point every time.
I am, because it feels like, but I also think that this one could have been read out of order. Like, I don't think you lost anything by reading this one out of order.
In this book, we have our same characters from the first book. We're introduced to a couple more, but we have Atlas, we have Ryle, we have Alyssa and Marshall, and Lucy the roommate. We also are introduced to a couple kiddos, like in the, 12-year-old-ish range.
Yep.
There's
Theo and
Josh, and Josh and Atlas's mom, the piece of shit, Sutton.
See, I always liked that name, but now it's forever tainted because, I don't like her at all.
Kind of how I feel Ryle is kind of tainted.
But I'd never heard that name before this.
Ryle?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it is always going to be tainted for me, but this first time I heard it. Sutton, I'd heard multiple times before.
And so some little context about this book is I don't think Colleen Hoover had planned on writing it, but she has like her little close-knit Colleen Hoover like cohort, her diehard readers, and they were begging for a happily ever after for particularly the Atlas and Lily storyline. They wanted to see more of that. They felt like they deserved more after everything that happened in the first book, which is how this book was born. This book, I will say, it gave me a lot of closure for things, and it didn't make me feel any better about Ryle as a character, though.
It made me feel a lot worse about Ryle as a character.
Yeah, I feel like there was some hope in the first book, that he would change and get better, but he was just kind of a dickwad in this.
Yeah, because at the end of the first book, when she asks him for the divorce, it feels like he understands.
Yeah.
And it feels like he wants to do what's best for their daughter. And in this one...
Petty.
Yes.
So petty and jealous.
And I hate that for him. There's a lot of backlash over the movie and over everything at this point. And my personal opinion about all of that is I think everybody's reading too much into little things. I think the whole point of the first book was to acknowledge that, yes, this happened to her, but that's not all that she is.
Yeah.
And that she is growing and doing the best that she can and making the decisions the best way that she can, or that she feels she can. And it's not black and white. Whereas a lot of people are trying to make this black and white. I think that does a disservice to people who have suffered, because I am not just what I suffered. I am a whole person outside of that.
You're a multifaceted person. Yeah.
So
it's disappointing because I feel like the message and the themes of the first movie got hijacked by all of this supposed drama between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. And it's like no one knows the facts of what happened. Only Justin and Blake know what happened. Blake's not talking about it. Justin's not talking about it. They're both carrying on, business as usual. And there's just so many narratives being thrown out there with certain people being vilified. And I'm just over it. Like, that's not the message of the book at all. So let's focus on that.
Yeah. So for this one, we are going to focus more on what at least I think the intention of the book was.
Yeah.
Is that Lily is a whole person outside of what happened between her and Ryle. And that the choices that she has to make, even in this book, dealing with Ryle, are choices that women have to make all the time, whether or not you were in an abusive relationship before. If you have a child and divorce, or a child and breaking up with that child's parent, some of these things come in as well. Being a contentious parent, or child custody arrangements where you may or may not know what's happening at the other house. Things like that are worries for her throughout this book. And for her even, and again, this is one that people feel all the time, starting a new relationship. And how's that partner or ex-partner gonna take it? Are they gonna take it out on you? Are they gonna take it out on your child? Are they going to use the child as a weapon against you?
That's one thing I think Colleen Hoover did really great with this book, is just show, even for Lily, who her situation is much better than a lot of women
Mhm.
out there going through domestic violence and separation situations. But Lily still had the hardest time. And you see how we thought Ryle was working on himself, his anger issues, the jealousy and rage, and all of this. And he has gotten like nowhere in this book because it pretty much picks up right where the first book left off, where Atlas and Lily ran into each other
Mhm.
on the street. And this has been like a year after, all
The
of the
divorce.
stuff. Yeah. And she's balancing custody with him, and, she's trying to she's still doing her job. She has her life. Lucy, her old roommate, is getting married. There's the wedding to get ahead of. And then now this flame is still exists with Atlas, and she wants to get started with him, but she's so afraid of what Ryle's going to do. And we
Mhm.
see some of the things that Ryle does. Like, he's still very physically violent toward Lily whenever it's after the wedding, Lucy's wedding. Lily asked Atlas to be her date to the wedding. They went and then they left, and they just like had this cute little time together, some wine, they hooked up. Atlas leaves. Ryle has a key to the freaking apartment and lets himself in, which is, ugh, this is so like just icky.
Abusive.
Yes.
'Cause he doesn't wanna give up the key, and he starts this
Mm-mm.
whole thing about how she's keeping his daughter from him and things like that, which again is abusive because he's trying to get his way. He's trying to manipulate it to where he gets to keep his key and gets to still be in her life and make
Mm-hmm.
call the shots in her life.
And so he's in her apartment and he's looking around. He sees the wine glasses. He sees her panties on the couch and he's looking at her. He does try to take a breath and leaves at one point, but then he comes right back in and he's just like, is it him? And then she's not going to lie to him. And this is when he kind of throws her up against the wall and like in a chokehold. And you see he has not changed one bit.
You even see him later making an excuse for that "You don't know what I've been through." It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you've been through. You don't get the right to put other people through it just because
Mhm.
you've been through something.
So this kind of is a catalyst to Lily bluffing with him. Like, I'm going to talk to a lawyer and blah, blah, blah. So Ryle shows up to the flower shop to confront her about this. And this is after Atlas has dropped off some food too, right?
Mhm.
It's like Atlas just being the best boy, and he confronts her about it and then just gets pissed off when he's not getting responses that he wants to hear, leaves. And Alyssa's, or not Alyssa, Lucy's like, does it seem like he was headed somewhere? And then she's just like, oh shit, he's gonna confront Ryle about it, or Atlas about it. And so he does end up at the restaurant and picks another fight with Atlas, and Atlas is such the bigger person in this moment. I mean, they do get into like a little physical altercation outside of the restaurant, but Atlas tries to give him like very sound advice.
Mhm, and he does, and this is where you see Ryle making up excuses for why his behavior's okay, and Atlas shuts him down. He's like, "No, no, it's not okay, because you don't know what I've been through either, and under no circumstances would I ever lay a hand on somebody I cared about. So no, you don't get to make that excuse." A heartbreaking scene is where he forces Lily to tell him why she doesn't want Emerson to have sleepovers with him until later, and she says it needs to be when Emerson's able to talk to where she can tell me what's happening. And that just broke my heart that she is afraid that he's going to take it out on their daughter and she's not going to be able to tell her what happened. And that is the reason she doesn't want her around him without kind of witnesses.
And you know that Lily is telling Ryle this, fearing what his reaction is going to
Mhm.
be. But she's just such a great mom. And one of the things that this duology does, it always pits like Lily, this stand up mom, and then all of these other mother figures that they had, whether it was her own mother who was just kind of a doormat and let things happen and didn't protect her and just kind of, bowed her head and let all of these horrible things happen. And then there's Atlas's mom, who was the source of a lot of hurt and grief herself in the choices that she made and the husbands and boyfriends that she had. So you always have that comparison between what Lily is willing to do to protect her child and then what they grew up with. This is when we learn that the restaurant is being burglarized, and Atlas finds out it's this young kid that's doing it, and this whole asshole type of thing.
Okay, so I get the love of Ryle in the first book, I get it. He seems like such a good guy on paper, and that's even mentioned in this book that he, on paper, seems perfect. So it's gonna be hard to take your child away from him if that's what she wanted to do.
Mhm.
But Atlas, on paper, not great, right? He had a rough childhood. He is working on these 2 bar restaurants. But dear Lord, his reasoning behind not wanting to call the cops on this little kid before he knew who the little kid was to him, because he was in that position too. He didn't want the cops called and for that to be another mark against this little kid. Be
Mhm.
still my little heart. That was the moment that I was like, "Okay, Lily, I forgive you. I get it. Go."
Atlas
I
has
don't give a
all the
shit
green
what
flags.
Ryle says. We will deal with it together, okay?
And so we meet Josh, who is the little brother of Atlas, and they have a different father, right? Like
Mhm.
his father is this
His
deadbeat named
father's
Tim.
Tim, who is the boyfriend that Sutton was with when she kicked Atlas out. Tim was the reason he got kicked out. And the story that Sutton has been telling this whole time is that the reason Atlas left is he did not want to be a brother. He knew she was pregnant, and he left because he didn't want a little brother. Bitch!
Yeah, real piece of work. I like even how Colleen Hoover showed that even Josh was struggling with his identity and sense of family and belonging, because what teenager doesn't go through this when you come from a broken home is you still have so many questions and you want to be able to connect with your biological parents whether they're there or not. And so you make up these stories in your mind for why they aren't in your life,
Mhm.
like all of these plausible excuses for what happened. And so we see like Josh, I mean, Sutton was pretty rude about it, how she brought it up, because she was like, "Oh, see, he doesn't want to live with you. He wants his father." Atlas is just like, "I'm not going to prevent him from doing that. I'm going to let him, if he wants to meet his father and try and bond with him and have a relationship with him, fine. Like I'll help facilitate that." Even though it's heartbreaking for him because he
Mhm.
genuinely cares.
And he knows the father doesn't. He knows
Mm.
as an adult that he had all these same thoughts, but he knows as an adult that if they had wanted to be there, they would have.
But he entertains the idea, and this was probably one of my favorite scenes of the book, like, how they acted when they did a little drive-by at Tim's house.
Atlas is so cute, and I love that Elise keeps calling him, like, these Greek god names, like Adonis and stuff.
Adonis.
I love him as a person, but Elise keeps bringing you back to the fact that he's beautiful inside and out.
Mhm.
You keep seeing his insides through the book, but then Elise is like, "But also remember, he's hot as fuck."
Uh-huh.
Um, but yes, so this scene, the little boy, Josh, is so afraid. He had the nerve up until he saw his dad, and then he's like, "What if he just doesn't really care?" And he doesn't wanna have that shoved in his face that he just doesn't care. And so Atlas is like, "We'll do what you want. He's right there. I love you. You will always have a spot with me, whatever you choose." And then Josh, his kind of way of telling Atlas that he wants to go home with him and that Atlas is his family is that we can be a seedling. We can have our 2 little, like, branches of the tree, and that's who we are. That's our family.
I love that visual of just creating your own, like, starting your own family tree, little baby tree.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I loved
Because
it.
any of us can do that at any point. If you're not happy with the family you were born into, you don't have to entertain them. You don't have to be a part of that family. You can define your own family, find your own people, and that's your family. I love that message of this book. I also like the part where Atlas was trying to figure out Josh's character. And so he's talking to Brad's son, Theo, who turns out to be gay and is like, just kind of, he's exploring his identity, right?
Mhm,
And they go to the same
and
school,
worried about
Theo and
it.
Josh. Yes.
He's worried about whether his dad's gonna accept him, whether Atlas is gonna accept him, whether his friends are gonna accept him, the
Yeah.
whole, like, shebang of a 12-year-old going through that. Again, Atlas being Atlas, his way of telling Theo that it's not a big deal, is so great, and then he's like, "Your
Mm.
dad it's not a big deal to your dad either, kid."
Theo's way of describing Josh to him, saying he's kind of the bully of the bullies. It's like,
Like,
okay.
he's not nice, but he's not mean.
Yeah, which understandable when you've grown up like he is. He's gonna
He's
have some sharp
he's
edges
not
to
nice
him.
to the mean people.
Yeah,
He's mean to the mean people, but nice to the nice people.
he's
I
mean to
I
the bullies, yeah.
I remember a few of those in high school that were everyone was afraid of them because they could be mean, but then, like, if you weren't mean to them, they're not gonna be mean to you kind of a thing. I love those kind of people.
Kind of a defense mechanism too, right?
Mhm.
It's like putting up a wall, a barrier too, kind of protecting themselves as well.
Yeah, but I also like, you see later on, and you get some glimpses right there that Josh isn't just protecting himself, he's protecting those that he thinks need it as well, like
Mhm.
the Theos, that people are being mean to him because he's
Yeah.
expressing himself in a different way than they think is normal. And you see that, or at least I got the sense that Josh was out there telling them to fuck off too.
It was very heartbreaking because Josh is sticking up for the little guys who can't protect themselves whenever
He
no
is
one did the
also a
same
little
for
guy.
him. Yeah. There was the scene where Sutton was trying to take away Josh and she's at the hotel and Atlas brings him by the hotel and she immediately gets physically violent with him, like yanks him into the room, slaps him, and he, kind of falls and hits his head on the TV. And Atlas is like, oh, hell no, never mind. You are not staying here. This isn't safe. And he gets him back and he's talking to him like, has she been like this before? And Josh's response was basically like, well, at least I didn't get a concussion this time. Like, I can tell when I've had a concussion. It was just, I was getting teary eyed in that moment. I just felt so bad because he's acting like, oh, this is
Not a big deal.
normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you also see him kind of figuring out that Atlas had the same type of life, that it's not gonna change for him, because you see him finding the scars on Atlas,
Hmm.
the burns and the things, and he's pointing them out, and I think in his little 12-year-old mind understanding that Atlas didn't have such a great life either,
Mm-mm.
and that they are 2 peas in a pod, and they if Atlas can come out of this positively, then so can he. He can have a good life. He can figure out what he wants to do, and he can do it, you know?
Yeah. It was so heartwarming to me that Josh was able to go live with Atlas in this safe environment and not, want for anything and be provided for and have that
Mhm.
safety.
Well, and the kind of mirrors that Atlas makes about it is, to Atlas, he's being Josh's Lily,
Mhm.
and that's so cute 'cause he even I think he even says something of, there aren't that many lilies in the world, so he's afraid that his little brother's not gonna get one, so he is gonna do that for him. And then there's a scene where it's so cute, but also so sad, where little Theo is telling Josh that he's going to a parade the next day, so he has to leave early. Josh, being a little 12-year-old kid who's oblivious, is like, "Oh, I wanna go to the parade." Theo's like, no," afraid that he's gonna make fun of him or not accept him once he figures out his secret. Josh is like, "Is it the Pride Parade?" And then I think he even says something along the lines of he knew already, like, "It's okay. Can I go to the parade with you?"
Yeah, I wanna go right
And
away.
and I love that scene because it's an acceptance of both of them. I think they both feel accepted by the other one.
Yeah.
Like, Josh just wants to feel accepted by his friends and that he's not living in a world that doesn't like him, right? Because he's not accepted by
Mhm.
his mom, he's not accepted by his dad, and he's finally found people that accept him. And Theo is feeling out his sexuality and worried about people not accepting him either. And so these two little kids, for very different reasons, feel like they are the only ones in the world, feel like nobody's going to accept them. And they accept each other. And it's just so cute. I loved that scene where he's like, it's not a big deal. I already knew. Let's go to the parade.
I feel like Josh can add Theo to his little sapling tree, family
Yeah,
tree.
like found family. There's a lot of found
Mhm.
family because you even see that with Atlas. Like he found Lily, but then he also found this group of friends. Brad, Theo's dad. things like that, and this is his family. These are his people.
Atlas is definitely a light for so many people, just like Lily was for him. And you even see Marshall's reaction to meeting Atlas when they do a little baby Emerson trade off. And Ryle's just sitting fuming in the car, being a little bitch. And Marshall's just like, man, I really like this guy. And Atlas is thinking like the same thing, like they could be really great friends.
I love Marshall in this book. He
Mhm.
calls Ryle out in the most offhanded way sometimes. Like when they were having their intervention with Ryle and Ryle's mom's there, which is the first time we've met his mom, but
Mhm.
she didn't really do anything. And Lisa's there and Marshall's there, and Ryle comes in and he's like, "Did you know about this?" And Marshall, instead of answering the question Ryle is asking about, which is to make it a bad thing that they're having this intervention, he's like, "Do you mean did I know that you choked her and pushed her up against a wall and did threatened her in a text message and X, Y, and Z and listed out the things that Ryle had done? Do you mean those things? Because yes, I did know those things. Sit your ass down." Kind of a thing. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, go Marshall. Because he was not taking it. And I loved it because I think that that is Ryle noticing that the world isn't going to let him keep making excuses for his behavior. His best friend isn't, and even Elise, like he tried to get up one time and Elise is like, "Please sit back down." And he did because it's people he cares about. He's losing everybody that he cares about if he can't control himself.
Mhm.
He's I think that that was Marshall pointing out, "You don't have very much longer, and then you will lose everything that you want. You have to change. The world doesn't revolve around you."
Speaking of interventions, Atlas held one for his mother Sutton, which was interesting too because he brings Sutton to the restaurant and he cooks her favorite meal, coconut shrimp, and it's his one happy memory of his mom from their time what in Cape Cod or
Uh-huh.
something. He basically tells Sutton that she if she wants to be a part of Josh's life, which she needs to be, her opportunity is going to be Tuesday night dinners. And that's the only expectation that he has. And if she doesn't have it in her to treat him with humanity and kindness and love, then she doesn't need to be there or have anything to do with
Mhm.
him to protect Josh. And it
I
leaves it kind of open too.
I hated her so much in this scene because he's telling her what a horrible life he had, basically. He's telling her how much she was not a parent to him, and he's not gonna let that happen to Josh, right? And her only thing, much like Ryle, she wants to make an excuse for this, for that awful thing. She's like, but we had like, do you not remember Cape Cod? Like, I did one thing for you. And he's like, "I do remember it, but that doesn't negate, like, 18 years full of shit for one weekend that you provided me that was good." I
I
hate when parents do that. Like, "I did this for you." "Great, do you want a cookie?"
like it's like keeping score. It's like if you
Yeah.
truly care about someone, you're not keeping score like that.
Well, and it's
You're
not
you're
even
just doing the
keeping
right thing.
score, it's because if
It's
they were keeping score, it's 18 years versus 1 weekend, right? But they think that
yeah.
that 1 weekend should outweigh everything else. I hate when parents do that. You owed me a good life. You owed me. You had me. You made that choice. You owe me certain things. Not beating me is one of them. Not giving me a horrible childhood is another. So by you saying, "Oh, well, I had a one good weekend with you," doesn't it's like a slap in the face, I think,
Mm, yeah.
that he's supposed to weigh that one good weekend over everything else because she had her own problems. It's like, "No shit, Sherlock."
This is Atlas still being the bigger person, the better person, still giving people the benefit of the doubt, room to grow. That's Atlas's thing is he's not willing to just give up on people. He truly believes that there is some ounce of goodness. There was that quote, even monsters have a heart, and he's still giving her that chance, putting his hand out.
He does that even for Ryle, even though out of everybody in this book that Atlas could hate, Ryle is the one that he holds the most animosity towards because he hurt the one person the Atlas views above everybody else. Lily was the person who saved Atlas, and Ryle hurt her. And so his animosity with Ryle is above his mom, is above everybody else. And he even gave him the benefit of the doubt when Ryle came
Mhm.
to him. And he's like, you need to change. Your daughter needs you to change. We can be friends. We can want the best for your daughter. Your daughter can have the best of everything, but you need to make that decision. He's willing to put up with a lot of shit because he cares so much. And he even said that. He said, Even if you had 100 exes that are going to make our lives miserable, I would still choose you." I was
What a
like, "Oh
man.
my god."
What a man. Even if you had 100 ex-husbands making life a living hell, I would still pick you.
Colleen Hoover, man, she wrote a good man. I don't think that this person actually exists, but damn, he said all the right words. And his writings to Lily,
Oh,
the
yeah.
way he proposed the move in and the way his vows were written at the end.
What a way to end the book. Even
Yes.
adding in that line from was it Theo? Because Theo's always giving
Yes,
him
yes.
shit about the
You're my fish or something like that.
"It is my wish for you to be my fish."
Yes. I loved the
Uh,
relationship between Atlas and Theo too, because it was so cute in how Theo gave him so much crap for his being cheesy without actually knowing the whole situation, and that Atlas was not cheesy at
mhm.
all. He was fucking hot.
Theo's perspective of Atlas kind of humanized him a bit more because Atlas is so perfect, right? He has all the green flags. He's so perfect. He never makes the wrong call. But in Theo's eyes, like, man, this guy has zero game. He is so
Yes.
cheesy, like cheesy as fuck. Like,
Yes. Yes.
I
And
liked it.
and I like that in juxtaposition of Theo when he's actually talking about his sexuality and his crush, which has 0 game whatsoever.
Uh huh.
But when he's talking about girls, he has all the game in the
Uh
world.
huh. Uh huh. And you see Theo kind of, I guess you hear that Josh kind of has game because it's 2 years later, is like the last chapter or whatever of the book. And Theo's just like, yeah, I think I saw Josh making out with some girl under a tree outside.
And
Ah,
Atlas is like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this kid because he's got more confidence than I did at that age or something.
man, Atlas just kind of became dad like immediately to Emerson, to Theo in a way, to Josh. He just like has all these kids and responsibilities. And
He's
he's
got
like, you
dad
know what?
vibes.
Lily is worth it though. He's
Yeah.
like, if I get Lily, yes, I'll take all the kids. I loved it.
And
This
Lily
was a
took
really
over being a mom for Josh too, and that was really
Mhm.
sweet to see.
Yeah,
Her trying to
their own
bond
little
with
tree
him,
now.
and
So now their tree is like
it's
Atlas
4.
and Lily and Josh and Theo and
Emerson.
Emerson. Yeah.
And I bet
And
Elise and Marshall are in there too with Riley.
mhm. Yep. I mean,
Because
Riley and Emerson are gonna grow up.
and I loved how close Elise and Lily stayed,
Mhm.
and how
'Cause
good
that's
Elise and Marshall were to Lily, even siding, like, over their best friend and brother for her when they were very true to their morals and very true to their values
which
over
doesn't
relationships.
happen a lot in
Mm-mm,
the real world.
no. So, I
Yep.
loved that in this book.
Mhm.
And again, yes, Lily had that support, and Lily had support from her mother and support from those around her that doesn't always exist. So, it was
I mean, speaking of support, and you brought up Lily's mom, all of
the
his little
hug.
drive-by hugs, the drive-by hugs, and then you learn that he gave the mom a hug when she popped into the bedroom randomly early one morning and saw them just sleeping in bed together. And his reaction was to just, look at her and just get up and give her a hug because she looked like she needed one. It's just like, oh, this is just
Yeah.
who he is.
Yeah.
Perfect boy,
He wanted
man.
love.
Yeah, he was putting out into the world what he wanted
Mhm.
back. I'm glad they got a happy ending.
Yes. Yes. I'm glad we got to see that side of him because you in the first book, you could see Ryle's jealousy over him there a little bit, and you could understand that jealousy. As Atlas put it, "We were acquaintances until
Yeah.
you screwed it up. You are the reason your marriage ended, not me. We were acquaintances. We were nothing, but you screwed it up." And then when he talks about why he kissed her there the first time, because he read her journal and he wrote her back of why that spot meant so much to him and why it was kind of a happy coincidence that it also meant so much to her is he fell in love with her when she was being kind of a mom to him, which sounds odd, but
Nursemaid.
nursing him back to health, and he realized that he finally had love. And it wasn't he was in love with her, but he felt like somebody loved him, and he loved them back. And so he kissed her on that spot as, like, their first "I love you," and then she went and got a tattoo over it because it meant a lot to her that he kissed that spot.
And then you see him feel awful and blame himself because of the fading scars from Ryle's bite marks on that
Mhm.
particular tattoo when he's just putting all these pieces together, like, oh, the magnet and then that and just all of these
Yeah.
things. Even like how he picked out his house, his forever house. Like, oh, Lily is going to love being able to have a garden in the backyard type of
Mhm.
thing. Always had her in mind. Very hopeful, optimistic about his future with her.
Mhm. I love it. I
Mhm,
love
very
Atlas.
proactive. We like proactive good men.
Mhm. And ones that think about their significant other.
Yeah, just thoughtful, you know? It's
Yeah.
not that hard to put some thought into things and
Yeah.
genuine care. Yeah. And then I appreciated how we just heard nothing else about Ryle. He's not a part of the story anymore. It's really on Lily and Atlas's little family that they created together. And, we
Ryle's
wish
Ryle.
Ryle the best, but Ryle's Ryle. He's just gonna have to get shit together and figure it out.
Yep.
And then the end. So, I don't know. I'm wanting still for there to be a movie for this, but TBD there. If a movie ever comes out, we'll be on Story Darlings talking about it, but
Yeah. Hopefully less drama for this one
yeah.
if it does come out because good lord.
I mean, it should have less Ryle, maybe a little bit. We focus more on Atlas this time. Anywho, we hope you enjoyed our discussion of It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. Not the first book in the duology, as Tara will argue.
I mean, it could be. We could
It
have our
could be.
happy ending first and then, like,
Her flashback of terror.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then how we
So,
got there.
did you read this before?
I don't think
Or
so. I think it's
okay,
just been sitting on my shelf because
okay.
I don't remember any of it, or I just have book amnesia, but usually I have some déjà vus.
Book amnesia is fun. It's like
Yeah.
you can have a library full of stuff you've supposedly read, and it's like you're discovering a new story every time,
I mean, I definitely had that over the Ravenhood trilogy
right? I forgot a
because
lot about.
I forgot a lot of that, but I did have some moments where I'm like, "Yeah, I remember this part," and I did not have that at all in this book, so I don't think I actually read it.
Yeah, this is what happens when you start nearing 40.
And your
Everything's just
brain
so new and
goes,
exciting, but you have so much fun while doing it.
yeah, something like that.
Anywho, until next time, I think our next episode is what? The Cruel Dark by B.
Mhm.
Northwick, maybe? With
Yeah.
some gothic romance for spooky season. So October should be fun. So that's what you have in store on Story Darlings for next week. And until then, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.